All right, John, are you and Kenji ready to get started? Excellent. All right, welcome. It's my pleasure to invite you and welcome you to the Oshtemo Charter Township regular board meeting for April 28th, 2026. I'm calling this meeting to order, and I invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have item 3, which is remote location identification for remote attendance when permitted by statute. I'm aware that Trustee Ford is out of town for his day job, essentially, and Trustee Cole will be joining us. She's coming from her work as well. So there is no need for remote location identification this evening. At this time, I welcome a member of this body to read a core value of the township.
Yes, I'll go ahead and read. One of our core values is fair treatment to all people.
Thank you, Trustee Sikora. Next, we go to item 5, which is approval of the agenda. I have some changes to the agenda myself, but before I announce those, do any other members of the body wish to make changes to the agenda? Okay. The first would be an addition, item 7 in the work session, a Public Works current projects general update to be presented by Public Works Director Horner. And then items 16, 17, and 18, the second reading regarding Ordinance 690, the H Avenue rezoning, the second reading regarding Ordinance 691, zoning ordinance text amendments, and the resolution for the rejection of the 2045 comprehensive master and street plans. I'd like to move those 3 items earlier in the agenda under item 10. Our planning director has been away at a conference. She had to Zoom back here today. I wasn't even sure she was going to make it. And I think and then run the planning commission meeting. So out of fairness for all she's done today, I'd like to request that we move those items.
Okay, I need you to give me all that again.
Sure.
But real direct.
16, 17, 18, right after 10.
Okay, 16, 17, 18, right after 10.
Yes.
What was the first item you were
Sure.
on?
C-double-2, update on public works.
Project, general project updates. So would you like that in the form of a motion?
We don't need a motion.
Okay. Is there any questions about my request?
That's good.
Okay.
I move that we approve the agenda. I move that we approve the agenda with the changes discussed, adding item C2 and moving items 16 through 18 until after number 10 in the agenda.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 with 2 absent. That's in the wrong place, Sherry Bow. Put it up here. Next, we'll move to item 6, which is public official and community partner updates. This is a time that we reserve on the agenda for our partners in the community, elected officials, other appointed bodies that we work with closely to come and talk to us. Often we have the road commission with us. I don't see them this evening, and we have Mr. DeLue, and I don't see him either. Is there anyone else representing a community partner wishing to provide an update? No? Okay. And I hope, I believe I sent you all a message that our road commission representative, Mr. Stayhauer, his wife is recovering right now. So Township sent a card of, we're thinking of you, but if you shot him an email, I'm certain he would appreciate that. He's a good guy. Next, we'll move into item 7, which is our work session. And we will begin our work session with a presentation on the Phase 2 sanitary sewer expansion. And I'd like to now welcome Public Works Director Horner to lead us through that presentation. Before you begin, Anna, while you're setting up, I just wanted to make the board aware, I do see that Trustee Cole is online, so she is listening. Due to the circumstances that she's not present with us, she is unable to participate in board deliberation or vote, but is welcome to participate during public comment.
This presentation is hopefully to add some more context to some of our later items on the agenda, but wanted to give the board an update since the last time we talked about a month ago, how we went through the Phase 2 sanitary sewer project bidding. So we'll still go through some background and history of the project, talk about the financial overview, talk specifically a little bit more this time around about the procurement process we went through with Phase 2, and our recommendation and next steps. So I did want to share this. It was recently presented in a session I attended. It is a map of Kalamazoo County, and all of the green shows where sanitary sewer service is provided. Public sanitary sewer service that goes to the treatment plant in Kalamazoo, which is conveniently located right in the middle. So it all makes it there mostly through gravity, but it was a little bit better to see a visual and the representation of how much sewer is in Oshtemo versus some other areas, and most in particular how it serves a lot of the lake areas. That was a lot of the initial conversations that were held around water quality and groundwater protection. So it is very typical that you would see public sewer towards those lakes. So I just thought that was a new picture. I'm running out of pictures to show during these presentations and wanted to just show that representation across the county. So we've been through this quite a few times with the board, but I just want to keep reiterating the importance of these projects and what the goal has been. Obviously, we've had to make some adjustments and be agile for market, for resident feedback, and we have continued to make the goal to move the projects forward, recognizing the benefits to the community, and that really providing that long-term solution for some of these neighborhoods. So again, there's a few different things we look at when we're prioritizing projects. There's also other ancillary things that we look at, other construction projects in the area. There's all these things that we are navigating and balancing when we set up projects. In Phase 2, we had 3 contracts. Contract C, which was Country Club Village, Contract D, which was Westport North, and Contract E, which was Westport South. And that was not the original scope, but again, as we've had to be agile and keep adjusting, and we got updated estimates, that's what we anticipated moving forward for Phase 2. I also wanted to, we've talked about the different surcharge connection fees, road fund and general fund, and those are the different revenue sources that are going to be paying for this debt. But I did want to, I don't know that I've specifically spoken to the reason why we need some of these different pieces and why some of them come with time limits. So when you take out debt, like you would take out a mortgage, you need to show that you have the ability to repay whatever entity is loaning you the money. And so these sources, some of them are specific in what they can be used for, but they are measurable because we have a time frame on them of when they need to be connected or completed, and then they can be predictable in our cash flows. And then, again, there's certain items during the construction bidding process and contract setup that we know we have to consider that we're using the appropriate funding source. So, for example, the road fund needs to go to road-related items. That is a restricted fund. Again, the surcharge, there are specific things you can use a surcharge on somebody's utility bill for. So there's a lot of that monitoring happening too, and how we're going to fund these projects. And that has been part of the timeline for the township. And I just think some of our conditions where we didn't have the ability to leverage the road fund maybe initially when these projects were first thought of. And we went through that process and advocated for our right to levy those mills. And then, as the connection fees were probably double this on average for most of the homeowners. And again, we took feedback from the residents, and this board has been steadfast in that connection fee. It's still going to remain at $7,500 per single-family household. It's a little different, like if you lived in a duplex or if you were a commercial business. But in most of these projects, it's a single-family, one benefit unit connection. And the other thing is that our surcharge is applied on all the users of the system. And we've been able to work with our municipal finance advisors, Benzinski and Company, and really try to make sure that that's stable, so that we're not having annual changes in the surcharge that people can't predict on their bills. We're trying to balance that with keeping it within what the current surcharges, or this is actually going to be a little bit less than what our current surcharge is, and making sure that we can keep that through the new wastewater contract and those negotiations that are going on. So I just wanted to, since I've spoken to this a few times, make sure that I emphasize that when you take on debt, you have to show a repayment schedule. And our partners in this, again, we have certified municipal finance advisors that do this for a whole bunch of different types of debt sources for governments, and they are the ones that have to be able to say that we are going to have those streams of revenue to pay back the debt in over a certain amount of time. The other thing that I think is important to highlight about this debt, because it is the only debt the township will have outstanding at this point, is that the USDA program that we're using is very advantageous, and it is competitive. We had to apply for it. Some of the benefits include that there's no penalty for early payoff. There's extremely low interest rates, and they lock you in at those low interest rates when you get your, it's called a letter of conditions, but when you get approved for a project. So you'll see in one of the items tonight that the current interest rates are actually a little bit higher for this program, but again, we are locked in at that lower rate. They do offer longer terms than some of the state funding that we would see through the revolving funds. And again, we've been able to balance that surcharge out so that we are anticipating having a fixed rate throughout the duration of the project, and we don't have to make big spikes year over year, and we can annually, now that we have our own internal finance manager, we can look at these things and make sure we're constantly monitoring that. If there is one year where the surcharge needs to be higher, we keep that in the sewer fund, and we balance it that way. If there's people paying off connection fees early, then we can balance that on our end, again, so that we don't have some spikes in people's bills that they can't predict. And then we will still be using additional connections. So when we create these debt repayment plans, they're very conservative in nature. They do not allow us to plan for any additional connections. So where we know that we have a housing development going in across the street, we could not show that in our projections, even though they're under construction, and we know that they're going to connect. So any of those additional connections will help continue to build our fund balance. And the importance of that, again, we've talked with the board about, is really building some of that resiliency into our sewer fund, and hopefully it will be self-sustaining. That's really what you want from a utility or an enterprise fund. I think I'll add to those highlights is that we are bestowing the terms of this financing onto the residents. So we are allowing them to take that full 40 years as well for repayment and giving them that interest rate as well. When we get to talking about the Act 185 bonds, it's slightly higher and a slightly shorter term, but again, we're trying to keep consistent and continuity across all the residents, and so our municipal finance advisors have just set up one table for all of that to be blended. So when we went out for bid for Phase 2, we had the 3 contracts. They were out for just about 30 calendar days, so a few less working days. But we worked with our engineering firm, Fleece and Vandenbrink. We had this posted on some of the big plan holder rooms or bid rooms, as well as they reached out to all the previous bidders of the project. And we spent some time listing out all the contractors we know, whether we had seen their trucks, working on a different project. And so we really tried to make sure that we reached as many people in the area that we could. We had a pre-bid meeting, so we invited contractors to come and ask questions. And we did have 5 plan holders for each contract, which is usually a good sign for us, thinking that, there's some interest. To be a plan holder, you have actually had to downloaded the plans and specs that don't say draft on the back so that we know you're really a serious bidder and that you'll get any addendum that would come out. Of those 5 plan holders, 1 was like a pump supplier that wouldn't have bid on the project, but it was still overwhelmingly enough interest. And on bid opening, we received 1 bid for 1 contract. So that 1 contract was a much more straightforward, and then we had to make sure we were following the procurement processes for both the federal government, the county government, and Oshtemo. So we had quite a few people concur on this process, that we followed all the methods that we should. So I'm not going to get into the legal side of it, but in Title II, there explains the different types of procurement methods. Again, this project through USDA is through this water and wastewater disposal program, and they prefer the sealed bid method, which is, again, what we did. So that includes, like I said, the solicitation of bids, evaluating those submittals, and then awarding a contract, which is where we are tonight. And again, the point of all this is to have a free and open competition. We're not trying to restrict or eliminate any competition. It's often, in my experience, seen as where we can't sole source a certain material. Like, we can't say we want this one type of pump, because the same thing is we would be eliminating competition. So we have to allow for or equals. In this case, it was just that we had 1 bidder. So I'm going to kind of set contract D aside, because again, that was the one we got a bid for. And the next steps for C and E would be non-competitive bid procurement. So because we didn't have any bidders to go back and competitively negotiate with, we went to the non-competitive negotiation. And I do want to still say it's a negotiation. When we did this, we first contacted all the plan holders, and there was not the ability for them to take on these projects, even if we rebid them. The contractor, Redline, that bid on contract D, did have interest in E. Their concern and why they actually came with envelopes to the bid opening, but they were concerned about the timeline, that we wanted both C, D, and E all done this year. So in talking with them about their ability to complete the project and what that schedule would be, they also held most of the unit prices that were some of the items are lump sum items, which are really based on the conditions of a site. How much does it take to mobilize, get insurance, those types of things. But the unit prices for pipe, for curb and gutter, for asphalt, have all been held. And really, there is some added continuity and efficiency, especially in D and E, where it's all one neighborhood. We did divide them up, but essentially still all one plat. So in that case, we are recommending that we also award Contract E to Redline, and I'm going to get to the schedule on when they can get both of these done. And then we will take Contract C, and it is what we call shelf-ready. So at the appropriate time, whether it's more favorable time of the year, whether we can contact more of the contractors, and they have interest, or the funding opportunity is right for us, then we will rebid Contract C. So that lines us up to do a USDA bond closing at this point that's structured where the USDA bonds will be used solely for Contract D, which is what you will see, again, in the other items in the packet. It's turning out to be an event on May 14th because we have the state director from USDA coming as well, and they are bringing a big foam check to present to us for these bonds, because they're excited to help these projects come to fruition. We have a pre-construction meeting scheduled right after closing because we'll have a good chunk of the people that need to be at the pre-construction meeting also at the closing. And then we have scheduled May 9th, which is a Saturday, and May 13th, which is a Wednesday. Did I get those right, Zach? Okay. For neighborhood meetings, and we're going to do the same thing we did for Phase 1, where we do the Wednesday one from 4 to 6, and the Saturday one from like 11 to 1, so that we can try to hit different schedules. I know this time of the year is busy with kids' sports and vacations and getting your yard work done on the weekends. So we're trying to offer some different options there, and we are going to be sending out postcards directly to those properties that will be affected first, so that they can come in, ask questions, make sure they have time to understand the different logistics and construction impacts. And then construction will start the next day. The plan is that for Contract D, there's about 20,000 feet of pipe. And so the contractor anticipates that they can get 10,000 feet done, or half the roads in the pipe done this year in Westport North, and then work on the lift stations. There's some seasonal restrictions that obviously we can't work during the full winter, and then we will finish the second half of that in 2027, the second half of the pipe, and they will be able to hit the ground running because we won't have these things like closings and remobilizing. And then as soon as they're done with Contract D, they can just keep moving down the road to Contract E, and anticipate starting that in late summer, fall, and into 2028. So like I mentioned, Contract C right now, we do not have a schedule for. And the Act 185 bonds are a little different than the USDA bonds, where you have to, as soon as you close, they all come at once and you start accruing interest versus a draw request system. And so we will do that closer to when Contract E is starting, so that we minimize the impact with the interest. The other thing that I really want to make sure that we provide in multiple ways is communication. So again, we're going to be sending postcards, direct mailers. We've talked about the text message system, and that's going to be coming up again later in the agenda too. We have this website under the Public Works page where we are trying to add updates at least once a week, but they will be more timely, and we're trying to do them on a routine basis so that people can start to get used to checking Monday by noon is when we're going to have our update for the week. The other thing we're looking at is working with our GIS consultant and providing a layer on our interactive map so that we can also update the progress and people can see it visually, click on their residence, and understand what's happened or coming. So again, we're trying to use a few different tools this time, and the tools we have available, to make sure we get that information out. So that was what I wanted to make sure we added context to for the board. I'm happy to answer any questions. Zach Pearson's here too. I knew construction was picking up and that there was a lot of questions about sewer because my phone started ringing today, which means that Zach was on the phone all day and there was a line of a few of our coworkers out there waiting for him to talk to him. So we have already started to deal with some of the storm impacts, the questions about when this project is going to occur. People saw it in the newsletter, so they want to know what's happening, what part of the neighborhoods we're starting in, whether they should get their sump pumps, their septic systems pumped again. We are finding out a few more people are in need that didn't maybe admit it earlier, but now that they've heard the project is coming, they want to know how soon they can get connected. So we are going to continue to do everything we can to reply to people and provide different ways that they can find the information.
Thank you, Anna. Right now, this is a time for the board to ask the Public Works Director, do we have any questions for Trustee Chapman? Nothing.
Nothing offhand.
Okay. Clerk Farmer,
You asking me something?
do you have any questions for the?
Oh, no, no.
Okay. Treasurer Bushka, Mr. Sikora? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
You can probably do this presentation in your sleep at this point, right?
I tried to mix it up a little bit.
You did good. Okay, next, we're going to invite our project manager, Zach Pearson, forward. We also have our maintenance director, Mr. Greg Fountain is here, and this has been a ways in the making. You might remember, we were awarded a grant from the county to do some fencing around our vehicle garage, so that the police cruisers could move out of our out of the vehicle garage and be screened by some fencing. And we engaged in work with an engineering firm, A&R, thank you. I'm like, which one? And tonight, we have a presentation for you about options that we have.
Yes, I had it pulled up and ready to go, and then I opened the computer and it closed it out.
No problem. We're good.
Try this again. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Okay, we're in business. Okay, so yeah, Sherry did a good introduction for this, so I won't rehash any of that. But I will get into the project scope here. So we've talked about this a little bit before when we brought in the AR Engineering Contract Award. We started off looking to provide some secure enclosed parking for the Sheriff's Department vehicles, which would open up some space for our maintenance department in the current vehicle barn. We took that opportunity to look at this site from a comprehensive approach and consider all of our accomplishments, visions, and goals from the past, our capital improvement plans, our long-term maintenance issues that needed to be addressed. So that really expanded the scope of the project to include much more site improvements. So one of the easy ones was that the pavement throughout this area is in a failed condition. It's reached end of life. So that was one that we thought we definitely need to address that. And this is the time when we are going to be doing some work just around the site to remove and replace that pavement before we create a confined space that might make that work difficult in the future. Then we looked at the lighting. The area is underlit as far as providing a secure space. And then we considered future-proofing it with some options for utility in the future. So for example, some conduit in case we needed to extend electricity to different areas of the parking lot or the site. We also looked at some other safety issues and concerns here. And the next slide, I'll go over how some of this access is limited and somewhat difficult. So we looked at reconfiguring the driveways to provide better access and circulation. Then, of course, we needed some additional parking spaces here because as it is currently striped, we are limited in the number of vehicles that can be parked outside to begin with. So we tried to assess that. And then just overall, it improves the function and the safety for maintenance. Right now, it's not as much of a usable space as it really could be. So we are trying to maximize the potential here and then, of course, protect township assets and our partner agency, the Sheriff Department assets. So here on this slide, this is the existing conditions. I've never been called an artist before, but I tried to trace in here in yellow the existing pavement for this site. So that outline is the existing parking areas and the existing driveway set up here. You'll notice that there's currently only the one access here and it splits. So there's a conflict point here as far as safety for vehicles coming in and going. If somebody is exiting that vehicle barn, it is really one-way traffic and it makes it difficult for anybody trying to get in there. Then what you can't see here is that this is also directly accessed from the park driveway. So there is a lot of then maintenance and Sheriff's Department traffic coming and going when we also have residents coming to use the park. So that is one conflict point. So for planned improvements, my cursor's not showing up like I wanted it to, but I can do this. Oh, nice. So we, one of the first things we did was look at how we can eliminate this conflict point over here. So as you can see now, we've changed this and reconfigured it so it is a one-way drive truly exiting the vehicle barn. So that limits the traffic coming in and a conflict point there for residents going to use the park. This new, the old drive portion here will now be a green space, which offsets some of the green space we will be taking away to put in this new drive over here. So this will be a gated drive that would have better sight distance for Sheriff's Department and the maintenance coming in to enter this area. The gate would be automated so that they would have a fob or a code that they could put in as they approach, and they would be able to enter the site. We are adding additional parking spaces here. On this page, you can see none of that pavement is currently present, and it's not really a usable space. So that adds quite a few parking spaces there. And then we are adding additional parking spaces up here, changing that to concrete to make it so that we can have a true accessible parking space here along the front of this if we needed to for ADA compliance. And then this would be the covered parking section that would protect those vehicles from different weather conditions. That would be a lighted carport as well, so it addresses the security concerns as far as lighting. There is an additional overhead light back here at this back corner to add some more lighting for these vehicles. We added a concrete pad here for loading and unloading for maintenance, for equipment and staging. There's still a green space back here for any excess materials that they might need to store temporarily. And then overall, there is a fence that encloses this area and it incorporates the buildings so that we could reduce that footprint, but still have the security that we need around this site for Again, township assets and sheriff's department assets. And then there is this darker gray is all new pavement. So there would be new pavement here due to this water and sewer connection that we're adding. I kind of don't want to gloss over that because currently there's no water or sewer service to this building, and that means that there's no eye wash station, which obviously is a safety concern if you are performing maintenance activities. Any work operating with chemicals is working on machines, vehicles, you really want that for safety. So that was a critical thing that we looked at and thought, why doesn't this already exist? We should take this opportunity to add that in.
Also to have water in there.
Greg, do you want to step up to the
I'm
microphone?
sorry.
Thank you.
Also to have water in there will help us to facilitate keeping the equipment clean. And we currently don't have that. It would be nice in the wintertime especially to spray the equipment down and get the salt off to ward off corrosion. So overall, any maintenance garage should have water in it. We don't currently have that, so.
So another thing that is not shown here at all, but that we did look at and consider was adding solar panels and incorporating that with this project. We did reach out to a vendor for a feasibility study. It would be more suited to be on the south side of the higher building. It was difficult to generate a cost offset because the meter is currently connected to the overall township site, and there's not really enough usage to show that benefit. So it was hard to calculate, but as far as costs go, we didn't see that fitting in line with this project now, especially considering the heavy tree coverage on the south side of the building. So we considered that, and we wanted to try to be inclusive and figure those green factors into it, but it just wasn't feasible here. So getting into bids, we had a similar procurement process that we used for the sewer. We did sealed bids. We advertised on 2 different plan rooms and bid sites here in Southwest Michigan, and one that is a statewide bid site. We also sent this directly to 5 or 6 different contractors to try to drum up interest. We had 2 bidders come back for us that were interested. We required a pre-bid walkthrough on site in person with each of them. I think both contractors met with Greg and I out there to talk through this project. Balkema Construction is the low bidder. We split this up with a base bid, which was the fencing and the pavement revamp mostly. Then we had one alternate for the carport because we knew that was going to be a big ticket item. And we had another alternate for the water and sewer connection with the eye wash station. So in total, I see Balkema was the low bidder at $579,000. That exceeded our engineer's estimate.
By double.
Yes. So it was a significant cost increase there. There was a number of factors I don't think we considered. There's a lot of market volatility right now. There was a gap between when we had the engineer's estimate done and when we received these bids back, and there's some world events that have taken place in that gap that we think led to some of this. And then the other part of it was that we thought the carport was going to be a big unknown. That was difficult to estimate because it is a design build item. It's not anything that is going to be shelf ready. It's a custom fit item that's going to go out here. So that was a wild card for us. And then the water and sewer connection was another thing. Apparently the copper material for the water service, that material is up quite a bit over the last couple of months. That caused some changes there. So in the end, we had budgeted for some grant revenue from the county. We had the ARPA funds still for $100,000. And the 2026 budget included a total expenditure for $200,000 for this overall project. And then the CIP outlined quite a bit of this work as necessary or needed maintenance that we needed to get done. So another thing with how the budget was put together and the budgeting cycle didn't line up with when we had the engineer's estimate from this project. And so I think that led to even a gap from what the budget was set at versus what the engineer's estimate was. So we are even below that in our budget for what that, the engineer's estimate was. So there was a gap at a couple of different levels here. So we took this project to Cemeteries, Buildings, and Grounds. They saw the same presentation. We went over all these items and it kind of made this recommendation with them that we should proceed with the low bidder of Bulkema Construction and that we should proceed with the full project, so that would be the base bid and both alternates. Some things that we considered in that recommendation is that we don't think that there is any substantive changes that we could make to the structure of the project that would allow us to rebid it and still accomplish everything that needs to be done. There is never going to be cheaper than now as far as construction costs. We don't foresee anything changing where these will come down, especially after having bid it once and now the market knows what the project is going to be. Again, the baseline costs are there. The contractors have already put effort to this. We've seen in the past, if we bring a contract out to bid, we get bids, we open those, and then we don't proceed. Those contractors don't bid again. We kind of burn a bridge there slightly, and we lose interest from them in the next time we go out for a different project. We did think that these were competitive and comparable bids. One is slightly higher than the other. I think it's just the structure of those two companies and how they're set up for what one is capable of versus the other one as far as contracting themselves versus subcontracting. And we did consider phasing this and doing alternates where we would break the alternates up over into future years. But again, we don't think that those costs are ever going to be lower than what they are now. And again, if we're trying to do a comprehensive project, it's best to do it all at once. That is the best time to get any savings possible that we could hope to achieve there. So that was the recommendation that we received from Cemeteries, Buildings, and Ground, was to proceed with the complete project. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Zach. Any questions for Zach on the presentation? I think thank you for putting that together and working through this. And actually, Mr. Fountain, is there anything you want to add before we go into any board conversation?
Zach did a good job of describing the project.
Yeah. So we were all kind of sticker shock surprised when those bids came back, for sure. What I want to remind the board members is that for 11 years in the township budget, there was $400,000 budgeted for a new maintenance garage. And we pulled that in 2023 as a project out of the budget because there had never been a plan to actually get it accomplished. It was just in the budget year after year after year. And so this project is a compromise, I think, between trying to get our maintenance department more space and also meet the needs of the sheriff's department. And so I guess I'll hold until we get to board deliberation on the memo and material. But I just wanted to remind the board that this project, a vehicle maintenance garage project, was in the budget for 11 years and never got any traction. So, anyhow. All right, thanks,
thanks.
Jim. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sikora, go ahead.
Yes, I remember that many years of having that in the money in the budget, and I remember making a big stink about it, like, why haven't we spent this money that we've been allocating? So I'm glad you are moving forward on this. Just a couple of like general questions, because I did see this before, but, so you're getting water and sewer to the building? But we're not installing like a restroom?
No, there won't be a full restroom or anything, no. It's just, yeah, we're bringing water in, so you have to have water coming out, and then the eye wash station.
Yeah, that was, just seemed like a simple, obvious question, like, oh, if you're bringing it there, wouldn't it be nice to have a restroom there too?
Sure.
For workers, but, okay. That's it, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Right, and the sewer connection is so that we're not just draining chemicals and salt into the ground, so that it's getting properly disposed of, so. All right. Lots to consider. Next, we'll move to item C, which is topics for board discussion. Trustee Chapman, this is in honor of your request at the board retreat to have these items earlier in the agenda. I didn't bring anything particularly prepared. I really just wanted to have a discussion. The board had the first board retreat on April 16th?
Yeah.
Yeah, April 16th. All 7 board members were present. We worked through a variety of discussions and activities, but I just wanted to, take some thoughts and feedback from that experience as a board member, and then kind of share what's next.
I'll go.
Thanks. Thank you,
I
Treasurer
actually
Bushka.
enjoyed the retreat. It was very positive, very thought processing, and I'm actually really looking forward to the second half of that so we can actually start looking at motion.
Thank you.
Sure,
Yeah,
I'll chime
please.
in. I guess I'd have to say my expectations were low. I am very happy, though, that we were able to have some conversation about learning about individuals, which is what I wanted to do before, learn a little bit more about who you're working with and their background, and helps you understand where they're coming from when they have something that they're passionate about, or how they're coming up with a view of, because of where they lived or what their life was about and things like that. I just find that very helpful to be a more cohesive and functioning board to spend that time. So I really liked that part, and to continue on doing that. I already lost my other thought. I am looking forward to the next part. I think maybe this is more of a dynamics thing. I think we spent too much time talking about individual things rather than putting them on the board and coming back to them later. So like someone might come up with an idea, I think we should do this, and we ended up spending a lot of time saying, well, we do have this here, or we have that there, rather than let's just generate ideas. And that's just a personal thing that I think we should have spent more time throwing out ideas and then coming back and ranking them. It's kind of a dynamic thing. That's, for me, maybe not for other board members, seeing it that way. But I was hoping it would be more of a, maybe not necessarily spontaneous, well, I guess it would be spontaneous because we just started talking. Throwing out more ideas from different angles, but not evaluating them right away. Not like picking on different things and saying we did this or not. Just keep generating, just get in that mode and just keep going with that energy and that focus. So I'm looking forward to the next one, to follow up on some of those and decide where we want to go or what we want to settle on. And looking forward to that.
Thank you. Trustee Chapman?
Yeah, a lot of what Neil said I agree with. When I first, I voted against having this because I wanted something more to get to know each individual, what made you tick, what your passions were. We got some of that, and I was grateful for that. But I think that better understanding each other would help us and our community. There's a lot of times where conflict comes up, and I think we could probably avoid some of that by just knowing each other a little better. But I think overall it was a good activity, and the facilitator, I think, did a good job herding cats.
I will say, That's not, people don't think about that, but this board doesn't get that time or the opportunity to just socialize.
Maybe community engagement will help that a little
Which,
bit.
yeah, I think that it will. But it's nice to be able to have a space like that where we can talk about multiple, we'll talk about big strategic planning without, violating the Open Meetings Act.
Well, I have a couple of takeaways. I really enjoyed it, and as somebody, I mean, Dusty, you've been around longer than me. Claire, we're pretty close. I was a trustee, I think, when you got elected as treasurer. I think this was a really needed activity for the township because we have so many big needs that otherwise I just feel like little pieces of things are going to happen and we're not going to be able to kind of really put lens and focus on some big picture projects for the next 3 to 5 years. My biggest personal takeaway is there are 5 lions on this board. So that we did an activity where was a personality trait activity, and I was not one of the lions, and so now I sort of understand why keeping my arms around you all can be a challenge sometimes, because there's a lot of lions on this board. But that was a good activity. In our follow-up meeting, because we have a sub-work group, I asked the facilitator specifically because he's worked with a lot of municipalities, and he was actually very pleased and impressed that we got down to business and we were cordial with one another and the discussion was productive. So he was actually quite positive about our first session. Neil, to your point, I think we're going to be able to revisit some of those things that you were talking about as far as like that idea thing, so we can make sure we get that on the table at the May 7th. The second strategic planning is May 7th here at Township Hall, beginning at 8:30 and concluding at 12:30. There was a member of the public did attend. And just for the awareness of the board and anyone else who attends in the future, the department heads were invited to attend. It was not mandatory that they attended. However, if they wanted to attend and hear the direction of the board, they were welcome to do so. So not all department heads were there because they felt like their priorities were different. And everyone that I spoke to on the staff was glad to be included in that. And it's actually, from the facilitator, it's my understanding that it's actually quite normal that staff are included to listen in on these types of things. So I just wanted to share that. So I'm going to, same process for May 7th. The department heads are invited if they want to attend and listen. But it's not required. If they have higher priority, we certainly will continue to share with them. And so the information about the second strategic planning will be coming out to your inboxes here pretty shortly, as far as we reviewed the draft agenda and the outcomes and all that stuff. So that will be coming pretty soon. And then, knock on wood, we will have our presentation of the outcomes at our June 23rd meeting. So we should be able to get that wrapped up, and that will give us some, as we get into budgeting, CIP, all of those things, we will have these unified goals that we can be looking to accomplish as a body. So I really appreciated the opportunity to go through that process and continue it. Next, I'm going to invite Ms. Horner to, it is construction season, and so yes, Phase 2 sewer is really important, but there's lots of other cool stuff going on, so I wanted to give Anna an opportunity to update the board and the community about what's already happening.
Thank you, Sherry. I wanted to make sure we don't always have an opportunity, especially because some of these projects aren't our own, to make sure that the board hears from Public Works and the community as well of what's going on around us. So the one project I'll start with that is ours is the 9th Street sidewalk. They are moving right along out there every day, a little bit more, either gets cut in or concrete poured. This is a project that is funded through a TAP grant, the Transportation Alternatives Program. It's some of the gas tax that's collected goes towards this. We were awarded $543,000 to put towards this project, and it will go from Stadium Drive to Quail Run on the west side of 9th Street. And like I said, they're moving right along. I think their official completion date is the end of June, but I anticipate they will be done quite a few weeks in advance. And you'll see a lot of like these long segments of sidewalk where they can do chunks at a time, but then it will start to slow down a little bit as we do driveways because we're going to do part width. And we give concrete 3 days to cure, not dry, to cure to get an acceptable amount of strength before we put vehicles on it. So they will do a portion of a driveway, wait till it cures, and then come back and do the other portion of it. There is some culvert replacements. If you've driven down there, you've seen big, very shiny silver tubes. Those are all driveway culverts. And then there will be some restoration. Right now, you might notice where from the finished sidewalk grade to the road, it looks like there's a lot of grass, higher grass or bermed up area in between the back of curb and the front of walk or front of sidewalk. That will all be bladed across so that it's even and then reseeded. And then we are adding some of the detectable warnings for ADA compliance, especially across some of the higher use driveways where you would get a lot of trips per day from some of the housing developments. So there will be a lane closure for most of that project. They are trying to take it away when they get basically from Jack's to Stadium every night so that we have all those lanes for the turning movements to try and help the flow of traffic at that intersection of 9th and Stadium, but otherwise that's remaining in place. And I saw them today, they were picking up some smashed cones. So they are responsible to go out there every day and pick up cones that are smashed or damaged and replace them. So they were out there doing that, but you can tell when either oversized equipment or somebody's not paying attention or they snag a few of them and they go flying. And so they're on the other side of the street or they're in somebody's yard. So they are trying to keep up with those as well. It's just a high volume road, so it's obviously going to have more opportunity for that to occur. The other project, again, is not ours, but it does obviously impact some of the network around the township, and so I did want to share this with probably mostly the public too. So the I-94 westbound ramp to head north on 131, construction has began. They are going to be adding a second lane to the ramp and then actually a whole nother lane between 94 and Stadium. People, for a point of reference, the engineering college is there with the solar panels. We call it an auxiliary lane because it's really meant for that continuous motion for people to stay in that lane all the way through. It's not meant for a weaving opportunity. It's not really long enough, so you wouldn't get over to, the left lane on 131 and then try to get back over to get on Stadium. So again, it's a lot of looking at traffic patterns and volumes and some of the generators that we know occur through these areas. So that's a specific type of treatment that is applied. This is going to be this is the phase we're in now. So it is open to 2 lanes on 131 right now. They're doing some of the drainage improvements. I drove through there today. There's these big black garbage bag looking piles, and those have what we call under drain. So it's like a sock drain, French drain, that's used for drainage on the side of the road where they're going to be widening it. And then they have their soil erosion fencing up, and they do have a lot of concrete barricades up as well. So trying to protect the construction workers. The most impactful one will start Memorial Day to Labor Day, and there will be complete closures of those ramps while they build them. There's two separate detours, one for commercial traffic and one for more daily residential traffic. And that detour does go through Oshtemo on 9th Street. So we will see more traffic on 9th Street. We have been coordinating at the CATS meetings between the Road Commission, MDOT, and both cities about other projects that are happening in the area, as well as signal timing and coordinating different project signage. So a lot of people are using Oakland. They're just trying to figure out what other routes they can take to avoid this project. So Oakland has been a popular one where people are taking 94, getting off at Oakland and then taking Parkview over. The city has a project to resurface Parkview coming up later this year. So you will have to follow the detour route if you want. And that's what we ask, is that you trust the detour routes, and when they say the road is closed to through traffic, it is closed to through traffic. And that helps us protect workers and make sure projects get done on time. And then construction season will be over before you know it. So that is a great project. There is a final stage that you won't probably even notice happening. It's going to happen on the other side of 131 where they're adding a sound wall. Currently the traffic on this interchange and on this section of 131 already is above the tolerance that's acceptable for noise. And so instantly when you do a project, whether you're going to be creating more noise, but since you're already over that threshold, they were responsible for adding that sound wall. So some other projects that I wanted to mention but don't have fun pictures for is the US 131 bridge replacement, which for probably Oshtemo residents, it's the KL Avenue closure. We have heard that it's going to be a little bit earlier. It was supposed to be the end of June, and they are saying mid-June now. So a few more weeks that will be closed. Currently, they are actually doing the township's portion of the project. So they have a pretty steep embankment wall that they've put concrete on, and then they have some sheet piling next to that, which makes kind of a straight drop, but that's right where the path is going to go. That's how they've accommodated that, was with that sheet piling, and then they'll repave the wall, or repave the road and get everything out of there. The 9th Street repaving project is actually being done by the Road Commission. That is from KL to West Main Street, in front of Walmart, if you're trying to have more of a perspective on where that is. And they are hosting a project meeting actually this Thursday at Township Hall. I believe it's from 5 to 6 or 5:30 to 6:30, but we've been sharing that on social media as well. And anybody within the project limits got a postcard from the Road Commission. And they always record those meetings and then post them on their website as well. That is going to maintain two-way traffic. You essentially just won't have the center turn lane while that's going on. So no detours for that. And then the H Avenue path is a township project. This is going to be on the south side of H Avenue between Drake Road where the new roundabout is and Westport Trails. I hope I got that one right. The Westport Trails and Westport Village, always, I get those backwards, but Westport Trails, so it's about 1,800 feet of path. Part of the requirement of when that development was approved was for them to do their non-motorized along their frontage. And so in knowing that was coming, we got designed and permitted our portion, which is everything to Drake Road. So we're going to try and do that all at once, so we don't have any joints in the pavement. We have all of our easements. We're just waiting to coordinate that. And then there will be some other miscellaneous path repairs along West Main this year, again, trying to coordinate with the Tulsma furniture store that's going in. We're going to put a little bit of that path in, or repair some of the existing path. So those are the big ones I wanted to mention, just so that everybody was, at least had a little bit of a heads up. And we've connected our media and communications manager with some of the other media personnel at the different agencies, like the cities. And I know he's following the road commission now, so we will try to keep pushing out other projects, and as much time as we can, and as often as we can. But you can always call Public Works as well. There's some private projects that happen, like if you've seen any of the fiber going in lately, it's all over, it seems like. We do our best to keep track of those as well. We have a few websites we can look at to see where people have, pulled permits or called for misdig staking, so we can kind of get an idea that way. So if anybody has any questions or concerns, they can always reach out to Public Works.
Thank you, Anna. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead, trustee Sikora.
So I'm just kind of curious, you mentioned cats. And then you also mentioned that the city is doing something on Parkview. Isn't the city part of CATS, and wouldn't CATS be the area to say, okay, let's put everything on a map and you can't do this because you're doing this or whatever? Did it not work, or is it not have the authority to do that sort of stuff?
What happened was that the US 13194 project got pushed a year because they got additional funding for that auxiliary lane project. So we do at CATS look 3 to 5 years out. We also have a 20-year plan. So we do our best to coordinate these things, but when the funding is available, it's available, and we want to make sure it gets spent in the community. So the goal is still to try and have the city's portion of Parkview done as late in the season as we can, so that we can avoid that whole detour, but it does happen that projects get close to each other and overlap, but there was, again, thought behind it. It's just that some of these things are outside of our control, but to the benefit. Again, we're getting more money, we're getting a better project. But we have definitely thought of how we could create one master map, and we've tried a few iterations of that internally here, just for our residents. It is hard to, with the tools we have in GIS, to make it that live or active, and have it understand those conflicts so that it can reroute people. So we have thought through some of those options, but nothing has been spearheaded at CATS. It's mostly just an opportunity for us to share what's upcoming.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, especially last year when it was, West Main and KL, and, it was like you couldn't go anywhere fast. But the money was there at that time, you had to use it. So, it's like, okay, well, do you want the road fixed or not? Do you want this done or not? Here's the money, you just got to react to it. And I appreciate that completely. I was just curious more about how CATS, oversees it, or has any influence and can do it, or is it eventually, well, if you want it done, here's the money, we have to do it, so tough. Does it come down, sometimes there's other things that are weighing into the project and the decision making.
I mean, it definitely keeps getting brought up at CATS. There's not additional funding there for that, to get software, to have somebody do that, but I thankfully am the chair of the technical committee, so I can keep advocating for that. It is a matter of everybody providing that information timely as well. And there's so many projects going on, it really is sometimes just quite the beast, but in some ways we've gotten a lot better at it. Like, I know Consumers Energy is meeting with all the communities individually now to try and get ahead of their projects. They did that in our sewer projects. And so we keep trying to share those experiences and contacts. CATS has more been the opportunity we use to share versus the staff at CATS spearheading anything. But I completely agree that it needs to be done at that very high level, whether it's the county planning or CATS or a different kind of participation group, because everybody knows their projects the best and when they can be done and when they can't be done. That happened with actually the 9th Street sidewalk. We were supposed to do that 2 years ago when the road commission was repaving that road, and we had to secure more easements, so the timing did not work out. But, so there's a lot of, different reasons for why that happens, but I can definitely keep advocating for that at CATS and with GIS.
Any other board questions for Ms. Horner? Okay.
Yeah, just one more.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The
Clerk
path on
Farmer.
H Ave. So this section is going to go from Drake to Westport Village or Trails. What about beyond that? I mean, I know that there's the challenge because there's a bridge,
Yep.
which, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully everybody can see this a little bit. So again, the area we're talking about is the high school is down at the right-hand corner. This is the new roundabout. Again, we're going to be installing half of the path that's going in, and then the developer will be installing their portion in front of this Westport Trails. We have already thought about the next few properties. And there's some movement on these properties. One of them just got parceled off. And with some of the work that's happening south of that with the youth sports complex, we're trying to be proactive with the transportation network as well through there. So I'm not as concerned about that piece, but I reached out to MDOT, I think it might have been when I first started here in 2020, and this bridge has about 50 years left in its useful life. So there is a grant opportunity out there right now, though, for a pedestrian bridge. So we can start to look at some other options and continue to apply for grants. And just, again, being at these meetings, part of it is that we can coordinate these things when we know a project is coming. So, yeah, getting across that bridge is going to be a little bit of a trick. It's definitely not wide enough. But again, with some of the other development that's happening in the area, we are studying what's going to happen to H Avenue and whether that is going to be at capacity and needs some improvements as well. So it at least seems that there's more and more opportunity for that to occur than 50 years out. And part of it, you will notice when they do the path here, we really try to focus on the termini and making sure that they're logical and safe. So if you ever see
The what?
the termini, the either ends of it,
Okay.
terminus, the ending points and the starting
Got it.
points, that they all connect or that they're at a safe landing place. So you can sometimes notice that with some of our projects, like the one we did on KL Avenue. We picked a driveway to end versus going to a property line. So that will happen a little bit in this project as well.
I really want a path down 10th Street to the to the Calhaven Trail.
Yeah.
You're so amazing. All right, thank you, Anna. I appreciate it for those updates. Okay, we have reached a time in our agenda that I think it's important we should probably take a little bit of a break. It appears to be, since I can't read the clock really from here, 6:43. Why don't we go ahead and return is 6:50 long enough? Is 7 minutes good for folks?
Yeah, I think so.
Neil? Uh-huh. Do you want more than 7? Do you want me 6:55? Okay, so we will return at 6:53
Okay.
for a full 10 minutes.
We would have never made it back.
6:53 PM in the evening, and we will reconvene this meeting. Next, we are at item number 8, which is our time for public comment on consent agenda or non-regular session items. So if you have anything you wish to share to the board, you have 4 minutes. Many of you are familiar with the public comment policy on the back of the agenda. Now is your time to share your thoughts and come join us. Yeah, if you'd introduce yourself, that would be great. You don't have to, but it's nice.
Yeah, I don't mind introducing myself. Are we ready to begin?
Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. My name is Miranda Vinden, and I moved to my current home nearly 15 years ago. I'm on the corner of West M Avenue, and it is about 2 city blocks south of the proposed Best Center that's on Van Cal Avenue. And I chose this place very specifically. It's just this adorable house. It has a chicken coop. One of the reasons I love living here is the soundscapes of nature that surrounds this place. On many evenings, I hear coyotes yipping. It's just this unmistakable sound of joy and connection with their pack. It just fills my heart with just joy. Each spring, there's spring peepers in the ponds that are right there near Pond View. And the sound of that, their songs are deafening. It just fills my heart with joy after a long winter. I hear pileated woodpeckers, I hear red-winged blackbirds sing, white-throated sparrows, wood thrush, chickadees, you name it. There's just this habitat that is just phenomenal. But it's habitat that's also surrounded by agricultural areas and open fields. And so, it's close to my heart where we live. These sounds aren't just background noise to me. These are part of what makes this place my home. And that's why I want to be very clear about this question that I have is, do you know what I don't want to hear in the background of my home? And what I don't want to hear is this constant hum of an untold number of batteries being cooled by fans day and night, introduced into what I really feel truly is this hybrid of a rural and residential area. It just, to me, just simply does not belong there. So, I understand that there's other folks here that might be talking about, that this new BESS facility will alter the shape of the land in that area, and it might be due to cost to homes, like home value, and that's a very real concern. But I want to talk about the cost to wildlife and the cost to nature, because there are species that depend on quiet, on darkness, on contiguous habitat, even in agricultural zones as well. And the value of that is not something that we can't calculate it. It's just invaluable and incalculable in many ways. So, my point is not to object to progress or to green energy or technology. All those are highly valuable. But my request to this committee is, if there's anything that we can do, is to have appropriate placement of battery farms or technology. To me, facilities like this are industrial in nature, and they belong in industrial zones, areas that are designed, planned, and buffered for that purpose, just like how earlier we heard about a barrier being put up by 94.
1 minute.
Thank you. So I'm asking you respectfully not to approve construction of this BESS facility at its currently proposed location. Please require that it be sited within an industrial zone where that infrastructure belongs, rather than putting it in a rural residential community that forsakes the natural environment that defines it. So thank you so much for your time and consideration in this matter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, I'm Rob Morrison.
Hi, Mr. Morrison.
I'm following up on conversations the board has had recently about ad hoc committees on the Planning Commission or other places. So I decided to do a little bit of research just to educate myself on this. And I found that under the Michigan Planning Act of 2008, Section 125.3817, it says a planning commission may appoint advisory committees whose members are not members of the planning commission. So under state law, they are allowed. I then looked at some other townships to see what their policies were. In Plainfield Township, in their board policy on committees, I think it's on page 2, it says ad hoc committees. These are committees appointed by the township board to address specific issues of relatively short duration, which are given specific requirements to provide input and to make recommendations to the board. Benton Harbor, their planning commission bylaws on page 12 state, the commission or chair may establish and appoint ad hoc committees for special purposes or issues as deemed necessary. City of Holland, their planning commission bylaws and rules of procedure on page 2 say, the chairperson, with the concurrence of the commission, may establish ad hoc committees and shall make the appointments to said committee. Also in Plainfield Township, on their same policy, has an interesting statement, which I think is helpful here. Michigan townships may create advisory committees to perform a number of functions, such as developing a budget or proposing policy matters such as public safety policy. Advisory committees are just that, advisory, and might have no authority on their own. They can perform only those tasks which the township board has authorized them to perform, and their finding or recommendations are provided to the township board for consideration action. So what I'd recommend is, after looking at this, is that I'd like this board to have an open mind on advisory or ad hoc committees. I think that if it's not in, I looked at the Oshtemo bylaws, I could not find anything about these here, but I think adding that would be helpful. I know that Attorney Porter expressed concern that in writing ordinances, that if an ad hoc committee was providing input, that they could use that as an excuse to go to the MPSC and claim that they didn't get due process. I think, though, that because it's in state law, if you put it in the bylaws, which I know is a fun process, is that having advisory or ad hoc committees could serve a purpose when you look at all the different issues Oshtemo is facing. So not just energy, which I know I have supported in the past, but there's so many different issues where a committee that expands public input and support to facilitate the work of the board or one of the commissions. So I just ask you to keep an open mind. I think there are legal ways that we could do this so that, if a developer or anyone wants to sue the township
1 minute,
based on
Mr.
that, I
Morrison.
don't think they'd be successful. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Okay, thank you. I'm going to close public comment at this time, and we'll move on to item number 9, our consent agenda. My eyes get tired. Okay, on our consent agenda this evening, we have the meeting minutes of the regular meeting of March 24th, 2026. The meeting minutes of the joint board meeting April 7th, 2026. The meeting minutes of the regular meeting of April 14th, 2026. The meeting minutes of the board retreat meeting of April 16th, 2026. And item E is informative, the 2025 audit governance planning letter. Is there anyone on this body wishing to make any changes to the consent agenda? Nope. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Motion by trustee
Chapman?
Chapman, I'm sorry. Trustee Chapman, support by trustee Sikora. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. And let me tell you where my brain went on that, is I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to acknowledge Kristen joined us, and so that's where my brain went. Welcome, I'm glad you were able to join us.
Yes, I did not break any speeding laws whatsoever, for the record.
No one was going to ask. All right, next, we will move on to item 10. We have our fire chief here, Greg McComb, to present the fire department's monthly report.
Hello, and thank you. I wrote everything down because in my report, the executive summary just gives me so much room, and I tried to squeeze in as much as I could. So I'm going to speak about everything that should be in that executive report. The Oshtemo Township Fire Department maintained a strong operational and financial performance throughout March of 2026. We had consistent emergency response delivery, no service disruptions, stable staffing levels despite increasing call volume and the associated overtime demands. We're also taking proactive steps to reduce unnecessary call volume by addressing repeat false alarms, including working directly with management at locations such as Vintage Lane to ensure that their alarm systems are functioning properly. We have an abundance of extra calls that we really shouldn't have to be going on, and it's a system problem. So we're working with them to get those brought down so it'll slow our calls down a little. In the report, you'll see the turnout, travel, and total response times are missing. They are a bear to pull, and I don't know if we're going to be able to keep them in. If we ran 300 calls last month, we have to go through and hand pick each one out and try to figure out why some of the response times. I'll give you an example. It'll show a response time from our station of 19 hours before we went to the call. And the reason is because maybe it was a fire and our fire marshal went out the next day to investigate it. And as soon as he attaches himself to the call 19 hours later, it messes up all the response times. So we have to go through each one and hand pick them out to make sure that they're all, it's a mess. We're working on it though. Crews continue to adapt effectively to roadway construction impacts without compromising services while maintaining professional development, while training and professional development remain a priority to ensure operational readiness. Financially, the department is operating within our approved budget. Our revenues are stable, expenditures are tracking appropriately. However, rising costs in apparatus, equipment, maintenance, and personnel continue to reflect a broader industry pressure, and it will require ongoing monitoring. The increasing frequency of apparatus maintenance needs to continue, The increasing frequency of apparatus maintenance needs continues to highlight a growing operational gap. As demonstrated today, I took a ladder truck out of service to Comstock for repairs, and once it was repaired, I took one of our fire engines and drove it out there and swapped it and brought the ladder truck back. We're constantly taking vehicles out of service for equipment breaking and things that we could fix ourselves if we had a mechanic, and that's something I'm going to ask for in the future when we get to that point. So creates a continuous cycle of downtime. Strategic efforts remain focused on long-term sustainability, operational efficiency, and aligning resources with growing service demands. We have no immediate concerns that require board action. And I want to finish off Erin Phillips. You'll see at the bottom of our sheet. She is our administrative assistant. She's been wonderful. She catches all the small details and everyday things to make sure that we operate efficiently. She's participated in our CPR class and got certified just in case. She doesn't have to do that, but she wants to make sure if somebody shows up, and it's happened, uncle's in the car, we're doing CPR, she's able to get out there and help. She stayed late last night to meet a family to install her car seat. It was the second one she did yesterday. And, you know, it's time to go home and people are leaving and she's like, yeah, I got a family coming, so I'm gonna wait. So overall, I'm lucky to have an administrative team who holds themselves to a high standard, and she is the pinnacle of that team, so. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief?
I just had one question on the training and readiness, the fire suppression. So this is, am I looking at this correctly? This is how many trainings we've done this?
Hours.
Or training hours, that's what I
Yeah.
meant. This month for these specific things. Boy, you guys really don't want, you want to keep that technical rescue certification quite a bit. So I was wondering the officer development, what exactly does that entail?
Yep, so we have, it varies. So there's classes that we send people to or we bring in that we've had some of them that deal with emotional wellness, to make sure that, you know, and that's all part of being an officer, to make sure that your crews are, after a bad call, you're able to read your crews and make sure that they're okay. A lot of it is, when we talk about officer development, is a higher level training that is not necessarily firefighter bound. This is above that to elevate. And then it goes into the advanced fire, where's this fire going to go? How are we going to attack this fire? Instead of just being the crew on the hose that's going in where the hot stuff is, this training brings people in to say, you know, we should hit it from this angle because we're gonna push the fire over here, and they get a deeper understanding of that.
Okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because when you first look at it, you're like, wow, only 60 hours hours of fire suppression, which, you know, is very important, but it's good to know that that encompasses, you know, additional training on the fire part of it as well, and I think you already know I'm a huge advocate of, you know, mental well-being for vicarious secondary trauma for you guys, so very happy to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Yeah, trustee Sikora?
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to comment, you noted Erin being such a wonderful asset and a great person. My interactions are the same. But she's also an election worker, if I understand. So
Yes.
she wears another hat in
Yeah.
addition to doing all the work with the fire department. So I want to point that out.
Yep, and she also advised me today that she would be out during the election day, so we'll have to figure out how we manage without her. The phone seems to ring a lot more when she's not in the office.
Maybe you just hear it.
It might be it.
I have one question. Any word on those radios?
Radios are all in. We've been reimbursed by the dispatch center, and we're picking a go-live date. We're thinking June 1st, but we might go to July 1st because we're working with other townships around us that when they get their radios in service, we'll all try to go about the same time to make sure that we can work on a fire scene better together, so.
Great job staying on top of that, turning it around, jumping on it, and being ready to go when it was available. I think that was outstanding.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Chief. Next, we are going to move to item 11. We amended the agenda, and so next, our new item 11 is the second reading regarding Ordinance 690-H Avenue rezoning. And we have our planning director, Steforia, here. We saw it the previous meeting, but it's here this evening for second reading.
Or not. Yeah, second reading, Stephen DeVries asked to rezone part of his property, the southeast 1.7 acres, to create a parcel to divide out to sell to his son. So we did first reading 2 weeks ago, and as part of this request, at a staff level, we reached out to the adjacent property owner to see if they'd be willing or supportive of including 0.6 acres of their southwest corner, so we didn't have a 80-foot wide strip of ag-zoned land, so taking portions of 2 parcels from ag zoning to rural residential zoning. And Mr. Fox, the adjacent property owner, was agreeable. I sent him a letter, and then he called me and said he didn't have any concerns about his neighbor's rezoning or his property getting partially rezoned. Tonight would be second reading and adoption to affect the change to the zoning map.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Steforia. Do we have any board questions regarding the second reading? Okay, since this is an action item, I will open it up for public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on the second reading regarding this ordinance change? Seeing no public comment, I'll close the public comment. We can move into board deliberation or action if someone is so moved.
I move we adopt the second, I move we approve the second reading of ordinance 690 for H Avenue rezoning.
Support.
Motion by trustee Chapman, support by trustee Cole. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. Next, we will move to what is now item 12, second reading regarding ordinance 691 zoning ordinance text amendments. Ms. Steforia?
Yep, I walked you through these amendments with first reading 2 weeks ago. And we do keep a wish list of miscellaneous amendments as we find areas of the ordinance that maybe conflict with another section or just aren't modern to reflect new ways of using your property, residential or commercial. So the impetus for this round of text amendments did come from the legal department and ordinance enforcement department to increase the lighting limits that we allow in some of our commercial and multifamily areas because of safety concerns that we've heard from business owners and residents, the sheriff's department, and our enforcement officers. So that's what the impetus for this round of amendments, and then we tacked on a few other items that had been raised, but interacting with residents and business owners about provisions in the ordinance that just make things needlessly more difficult. So those were some other changes to the amendments that were tacked on to this round for Ordinance 691.
Thank you, Jody. Do we have any questions for the planning director? All right, thank you. Since this is an action item, I will open item number 12 up for public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I will close public comment. We'll move into board deliberation or action if anyone is ready.
I'll move we adopt ordinance 691.
I'll second.
A motion by trustee Sikora, a second by clerk Farmer. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. Lastly, we have what is now item 13, a resolution for the rejection of the 2045 Comprehensive Master Plan and Master Streets Plan.
Yes, we committed days of our lives, and I don't mean that soap opera, reviewing the several hundred pages, cover to cover, one last time of the comprehensive plan, the appendices, and the master streets plan. And we identified a few areas that need further refinement. And we also noted that when the special studies took shape, they were originally going to be part of the comprehensive plan, and then they were pulled out to be in an appendix. But an earlier chapter had already said you'll find this information on this page of this plan. So our very careful one final review, we caught that, and it was brought to our attention that we didn't mention the Harris family in the history area of the comprehensive plan. So we want some time to add that language in there to honor them as the second family in the township back in the day. Because the planning commission's already held the hearing on this, officially you have to reject it to send these plans back to the planning commission to have another public hearing to consider these changes. So that's what we're suggesting tonight, and you would do that by resolution. And the comprehensive plan and master streets plan are really companion documents, and so we would really like them to go forward together for adoption. And the Public Works Department is pursuing a significant grant through the Safe Streets for All federal funding program. And we have to have the master streets plan adopted before we apply for it in May. So that is why Supervisor Bell has asked you for a special meeting on May 19th, where the only thing we'll talk about are these two plans. So we can get the master streets plan adopted in time to tell the federal government we have a safety plan for our streets.
Thank you, Ms. DeForia. Is there any questions? I will say, oh, go ahead, trustee Sikora.
Oh, I was just going to ask, I know how comprehensive the comprehensive plan was page-wise, having read it several times. How are we going to make sure we catch all those things this time?
Well, several eyes were on the various plans. And there'll be a list of changes, I should have said,
Yeah.
published on the website. I could get it done tonight. Rich was willing to come back in after his son's baseball game, but tomorrow morning, the revised plans and the list of what was changed in each one, page number and what was changed, will be available on the website. But I don't know, I mean, I had textbooks in college that had errors in them. I buy a novel from the bookstore and read it, and it has errors. You can't catch it all. But I think we got 99.9%. Another thing was just like, sometimes the word township was capitalized, sometimes it wasn't, so like, just for consistency's sake. And I think it's because at Progressive, there were a couple different authors of different sections of the plans, so.
I have a question. Do we have a consulting company working on the master streets plan in the next year?
It's done. The master streets plan is complete. And the planning commission had the hearing. We're just sending it back with the comprehensive plan back to the planning commission for another public hearing.
Well, that was quick. The last I remember was proving dollars to get them to start. And that was like just a few weeks ago.
Oh, no, that's for the zoning work.
That's for the zoning. Okay, so that's why I'm like, okay, aren't they working on something? That's what I thought it was.
The zoning
the master
update they're
streets
working on,
plan.
yeah.
Okay.
I just want to thank you, Planning Director. So it did go through several eyes, and 99% of is wrong capitalization or misdirection to a page number or whatever, but it was important. You know, we spent all this time and all this work to acknowledge the diversity of our community, and so I think part of the reason we had to back it up all this way was the addition of recognizing the Harris family, which were the first black settlers in Oshtemo and only arrived a year after the Drake family, and were also a very important. And so to not acknowledge that history, I just think it's a better document to me by getting that done. So I thank you. So are there any other questions for the planning director?
So just to be clear, this is a resolution that we're going to adopt to reject the master plan and master streets plan to send it back to the planning.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, since it says will be an action item, I will, at this time, is there anyone wishing to make public comment on item 13 regarding this resolution? Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment and move into board deliberation. Are there any thoughts, inputs?
I move that we adopt a resolution rejecting the 2045 comprehensive plan and master streets plan and send it back to the planning commission for further refinement.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Farmer, support by Trustee Sikora. Clerk, this is a resolution. If you would read the roll call.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Trustee Chapman?
Yes.
Trustee Ford is absent. Trustee Cole?
Yes.
Treasurer Bushka?
Yes?
I vote yes. Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 6-0 with Ford absent.
Thank you. All right, next we move to, now I got to renumber them, right? I don't even know. The next item on the agenda is the discussion and resolution of the conditional award of Phase 2 sewer contract, which is on page 11 of your packet. I don't know. Ms. Horner, do you want to lead us through that, or Attorney Porter? We could arm wrestle, Jim.
I will leave that up to our engineer, who has done all the hard work to get this resolution to this board.
Yeah, I think I'll just share with everybody, I guess some of my highlights is that this is, some of these upcoming, for this item and the next few documents, they do reference some of the Phase 1 bonds, but because we had to consider our total debt and the repayment of that. So that's where you'll see sometimes the principal amount is referred to the 45 million. This essentially says that the contract will be, the condition on it is that we close on the bonds. So it is awarded to the contractor pending closure, meaning we have the funds to pay them, which is the last sentence in item number 2 on the second page. It also says that we will issue a notice of award to the contractor, and that the supervisor and the clerk are authorized to execute those contracts. So that's the meat and potatoes of the resolution before you. It also includes the recommendations from Fleece and Vandenbrink, and again, kind of explains that procurement process. I did have a resident question during the break, and I just wanted to make sure I reiterated to the public and the board that I would have preferred to have as many, 10 bidders on each contract. But I think from the feedback that I personally called contractors, the conversations we had at the pre-bid, that's why we have a pre-bid, is to get that feedback from contractors. And that we can get these projects done both in a schedule as fast as possible. It's not going to be fast, it's going to take a few years, but that we can get D and E done, and that we can hold those costs. The other contractors that we reached out to see if they wanted to go through the competitive negotiation process with us weren't interested, because even with the schedule change, they were not going to hold pricing over a year. And looking again at some of the market volatility right now, and then the other projects that they want to see if they can bid. They like the MDOT work. It has some of the Davis-Bacon wages, the prevailing wages. Those are their priority. I really strongly believe that this is the best option for these projects to get finished in an efficient and cost-effective way.
Thank you, Anna. Do you have any questions for the Public Works Director?
Yes, I do. So this agenda item, this includes what the actual the bid is here, and engineer's estimate and all that, those things. So just for my own edification and anyone who else might look at this online or whatever, how do some things get to be so radically different? I mean, I can see where things are 10, 20, even 25%, even if you're thinking of a tariff. But something that's like $550 estimate and 1.2 million is the bid, and then there's another one where that's reversed, and it's like, I know it's a best guess, but how does that all work? And some of these are just like so worlds apart.
Yeah. So I've been in the shoes of the engineer where you have an estimate and it doesn't, you were not the most accurate. So we did, without trying to, nickel and dime, but we went back to the contractor and said, can you help us understand some of these, like manhole items was one where they have been about $4,500 each for the last decade of my career, and now they're double that price. And so a lot of that is the market driving that, and the contractor broke down for us where the cost came from. So that was one that, for me, I'm always like, come on, that can't be the right price. But hearing directly from them what they put into the cost was how we fact-checked some of those numbers, if you will. Some of them are, like there's one item where I know the city of Kalamazoo just came out with their new sewer specifications, and they did change the sanitary sewer lead detail. And they used the word casting in the detail for the top cap. And so the contractor bid that as a iron casting. That is not what we're gonna need. We're gonna need a plastic cap. So we will look at that throughout construction and make sure we get the adjustment on the item. And the other thing I was explaining to the resident that stopped me was that there's some of these items where they have a different, and I think I've explained to the board, they have a different method of construction that they can use this conveyor belt. And then phase one, what we saw is they did not need as much sand replacement. And we will only pay, because it's a unit price contract, for the actual quantity of material that goes in. And so from I haven't been in the contractor's shoes, but my understanding is they will look at those items and price them accordingly to make their bid favorable, because they're not expecting to use that much replacement material. We still have to execute the contract with that much quantity, but we do expect there will be some cost savings there. Other things are asphalt right now, because of the emulsion, it's frustrating to me because the prices were finally going down for the past few years. So those ones are volatile. And then the ones where, especially the sewer prices, what we've seen from phase one to phase two, These are really challenging neighborhoods. You're really deep in the ground, and there's certain sections that you can only get through a few hundred feet, 100 feet a day when they're trying to get closer to 250 or 300 feet. And they can see that in a very different lens than an engineer can. And so I think there was some of those items, but we went line by line, probably more than we should have nitpicked each item, but we really wanted to understand those same things. So again, there's some items where, we expect this much restoration because we want that covered. We don't want to take on that risk as a change order. But the contractor knows their means and methods and know they won't actually disturb that much area. So they can all look at it with their factors of how many crews they have, what size equipment they have, and that can play into those prices. That was a long-winded answer, but I hope it helped.
Yes, it was. It's just, one of those, not the long-winded part, it helps to explain it, because a lot of times we'll get this and see this, and we're like, jeepers, if I, was doing that at my house, and somebody came in with twice as much what I was doing, and it's helpful, I think, for the general public, as well as for the board, to understand some of the background of what goes into that, and that angle of it, to be able to explain it to the taxpayer, to the residents, and why, when they look at that and point at something, we have a better understanding. So thank you, that was very good, thank you.
And I would imagine too, Anna, that, like you had said, that some of them really didn't necessarily want the job. They had their eye on other things. So, they're probably going to have a more inflated, we'll do it, but it's going to cost this.
I monitor bids around the region too, to see where they're coming in. So, for example, Township just had a sewer project bid. Their third bidder was 3 times what the other 2 were, and they were very within a few $1,000s of each other. And that just showed that if they got it, it was going to be great for them, but it was not. The other 2 clearly were much more in line. And that is our job in Public Works, is to understand where we can provide, manage our risk and provide the best service. So again, one of the items that we came up with in phase 1 was the waste hauling coordination, because that ends up being a price that a contractor knows they just have to absorb, and then it can be built into a different pay item. And so we want to make sure that we, can help, especially with projects this big, manage those items effectively. But when I started looking at the asphalt prices, even if they did bid at the engineer's estimate, it wasn't saving over, 10%. It wasn't, any of these items weren't going to be moving the needle where I could tell that we bid something completely wrong. Because sometimes I've seen bids where a contractor bids it at a price where I know I missed something as the engineer, and I didn't account for a certain area. And then when we pay at a unit price, they're going to be able to get paid for a quantity way more than was bid. So we do look for those things. I think from the engineer, the owner, and the contractor, we all have our lenses that we look at things. And, what is going to stick out to us is somebody might be, missed this or is accounting for this. But again, we went through these in quite a great detail with the engineer and with the contractor as well, and tried to understand where some of these costs are, where some of the savings are going to be, where they expect some of the pay items to be a little, not as much quantity needed, but that it's there.
Yeah, I had actually an experience with this when I had to put my second drain field in at my house, Neil. So I had 4 contractors come out to give me quotes, because it was, there was only one place to put it on my property, and they had to drill through a retaining wall, and it was very complicated. And I had a range from 28,000 to well over 45,000 to do it, the same exact thing. So, yeah, I ended up going with the 28,000. Thankfully, it was the least, but it was also the company that they came out and they knew what they were talking about more than the others. So I think part of that was like, we'll just kind of guess what this is going to cost, whereas these guys knew.
Yeah.
So,
And again, it can get very detailed where some of the contractors have their own gravel pits, so they have a totally different supply of materials.
Yeah.
Some are more, some self-perform concrete work versus others have to sub it out. So it really, it's good for the market, because that provides a lot of competition, when we have that many contractors in this area that have the, the capabilities or the different services, but it can also make bidding a little stressful when you're the engineer's estimate.
Any other board discussion on this item? Okay, thanks for the question, Mr. Sikora, that was a good one. Okay. Well, we have a resolution in front of us. I get so involved. Have we opened this item up for public comment yet?
No. No.
Okay, thank you. All right, since this is an action item and it is new item number 14, discussion and resolution, conditional award of Phase 2 sewer contract. Do we have anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. We can go into board deliberation.
I move that we adopt a resolution to make conditional award of construction contract for Phase 2 sanitary sewer project.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Farmer, support by Trustee Cole. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
I should have reminded you.
You know what, that's why, you know what, I just.
Yep, that's my
okay.
bad. Trustee Chapman?
Yes.
Trustee Ford is absent. Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Trustee Cole?
Yes.
I vote yes. Treasurer Bushka?
Yes?
And Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 6-0 with Ford absent.
Next part is a resolution, USDA Phase 2 Loan Series 2026A bonds and Series 2026B bonds, and which can be found on page 27 of your packet. They've been changed in the packet. So the packet was updated today. Last week when it was assembled, Adobe has this thing where when you're combining documents, it will read the neighbor next time and change some of the numbers and wording, and it's a humdinger. Anyway, what's before you in the packet are the correct documents. So Anna, do you want to talk about these?
I'll follow up that, again, this fillable forms in Adobe is what did this, but Series 2026A is for $9,900,000, and Series B, 2026B, is for $9,582,000. USDA does not like to go into another digit. That's why they do these two series just under $10 million. It's just, I guess, how their accounting software works. Yes, and so these are authorizing the Township to take out the loan on the bonds that they're going to sell on our behalf, which is the next resolution.
Do they need to be run separately?
That was my question. Do we need to do these separately, or can we do them together? And I'm struggling to figure out exactly what the motion would be.
Look at page 35, I think we can run them together.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with you approving both the loan resolutions in a single motion and put the same vote in both the separate, both resolutions.
I think the important part is just to list both of them separately in the
We will.
amounts. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, at this time then, on item 15, would be an opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone here wishing to make public comment on the resolution for USDA Phase 2 Loan Services 2026A bonds and Series 2026B bonds? Seeing no public comment, we'll move to board deliberation.
So is the resolution what appears on page 35 then?
Yeah, to adopt a resolution,
Okay,
that piece.
so I'll move to adopt the resolution to authorize issuance of capital improvement bonds, general obligation, limited tax, Series 2026A and 2026B.
Support.
Motion by trustee Sikora, support by clerk Farmer. This is a resolution. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Ford is absent. Trustee Cole?
Yes.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Trustee Chapman?
Yes.
I vote yes. Treasurer Bushka?
Yes.
And Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 6-0 with Ford absent.
Okay. Next, we have item 16, which is a resolution to authorize issuance of capital improvement bonds, general obligation limited tax, Series 2026A and Series 2026B for Phase 2 USDA sewer project.
So the resolution for, original item.
Your mic's
Mike.
off.
Sorry. It was item 12 originally, I'm not sure what number it is now, but that is the first piece where the bonds that we're selling are going to be used as a loan to USDA. So this then authorizes us to issue those capital improvement bonds essentially back to the USDA so that they can have our debt. Does that make sense?
So if I understand correctly for the record, we approved 13, now we're back to 12. Is that right? We're back to the actual loan series bonds, or? 'cause
Oh,
somebody
you
said
read page 35. Yeah, the item 12, the resolution would have been to approve the indebtedness to the USDA for Series 2023 and 2028, 2026
Okay,
A
so-
and B.
It was that, just for clarification,
Yeah.
was that the vote that was initially, that was just taken?
No, the one that was just taken
Taken
was
was on-
issuance of capital improvement bonds. Series 2026.
Okay, so that's item 13. So
Gotcha.
we then need to pass the
Loan
loan.
resolutions, thank you.
Yes. The motion on these would just be reading that first section right under where it says public bodies.
Right. So are you going to move these two together? That was the original question I thought I was asked.
Well, we've already moved one. Oh, I see what
On
you're
page
saying,
11, Anna?
Yeah.
Page 27,
doing
well, the
public
original
comment?
packet, page
It's
27.
27, yeah.
And page 31, you have the two loan resolutions, you have to approve both of those. In addition to the resolution to authorize issuance of the capital improvement bonds.
Yeah, sorry, when you said page 35, Dusty, I wasn't flipping through the pages to see what you were referring to.
Sorry, that was me.
Oh,
My fault.
so that item has been approved, originally item 13. So item 12 was page
Approving both
27.
loan- Yeah, you need to approve both loan resolutions.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to move that, second it.
That's what we just did.
No,
They read the
didn't.
different
Somebody jumped
resolution.
ahead
They read
to
the,
13. That's what
Oh,
I'm trying
that's,
to
I think,
clarify in the
because
record.
we were on the wrong pages.
yep.
Okay. So, got it. So now we have to go back and do item 12.
Correct.
Okay.
And those, again, I think can be moved together, but they both have to be listed
Correct.
as Series A and B.
Can you get us to the right page in the
I
packet?
don't see where you keep saying
27?
both. I don't
Page
see both of them.
27.
There's
Page
page
27.
27.
Page 27 is one loan resolution, and then on page 31, you have a second
Yeah.
loan
Yeah.
resolution.
Right after it.
Because
And they
can't be
look
double
almost
digit.
identical. It's just the dollar amounts
The
are
dollar
different.
amounts will be different.
So
That's-
scroll down.
That's the only difference.
So,
Do I need that dollar amounts on the,
do you need the, yeah, that's a good question. Do we need to add the
No.
dollar amount?
because we've got that.
Because we have the resolution
Yeah,
itself.
okay.
I just actually need a vote, so I can
What is the actual motion though for
Yeah,
this?
that's-
I would,
To approve.
I would
Would be
read
a
the
motion
top
to
of,
include-
The resolution of the township board part,
yeah,
Yes.
to where?
till the last, to the end of the capital letters.
Yeah.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Resolution of
5.
the Township Board of Oshtemo Charter Township authorizing and providing for the incurrence of indebtedness for the purpose of providing a portion of the cost of acquiring, construction, enlarging, improving, and/or extending its sanitary sewer collection system. Both of those resolutions are the same, they're different in amounts. One would be covered by the 226A, and the other would be covered by 226B.
So moved.
So,
Support.
As you said.
We've made it so easy where we list the motion on the memo. I'm sorry, I should have.
what page is that on?
Page
27.
27
Minute and
that's
31.
and 31. And Murphy's Law is whatever can go wrong will go wrong. That's why, I know I'm old school, but I still carry paper.
Okay, I need to hear the motion again.
The motion would be to approve the two loan resolutions for the 226A and the 226B bonds as set forth in both separate resolutions, loan resolutions.
2026A.
Sorry.
2026A and 2026B.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll make the motion to authorize and approve the loan resolutions for 2026A and 2026B.
We already have a motion.
Oh, we already have, oh,
So
who
Michael,
moved it?
trustee Chapman made the
Oh, I-
motion
okay.
and
So- He said
support
so moved,
by,
I see,
I-
yeah.
I'm sorry,
I don't
I missed that.
recognize that.
support by Treasurer Bushka.
By Bushka, okay.
Okay.
Okay. This is a resolution. Will you call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Chapman.
Yes.
Trustee Cole.
Yes.
Trustee Sikora.
Yes.
Trustee Ford is absent. I vote yes. Treasurer Bushka.
Yes.
And Supervisor Bell.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 6-0 with Ford absent.
Did we get it done, Anna?
Yeah, but now I need the page numbers and a provided resolution, or
Uh,
motion for you guys.
Legal will provide
You
those to you.
spoiled us. We need to keep being spoiled.
Yes, we're all set, thank you very much.
No, I'm tracking. We'll get it to you first thing in the morning.
All right. Big stuff, you guys. Trustee Ford is very sad that he's not here, by the way. This is 10 years in the making.
Yeah, and again, we have some guests coming to our closing, so if Zach hasn't already, I know he was going to get that on everybody's calendars, just so you're aware of when that is occurring.
Yeah, the
It's
state-
public, it will be in here.
Our
Public?
Paul Bristol, what's his,
Did we give a notice?
our USDA representative?
Yeah.
I think literally Paul is retiring the day after we close on these bonds. Like, I'm kind of not kidding about
He's
that.
been hanging on
been-
just for us.
He's been hanging on to see this project get closed, so it's pretty fun. All right, next we'll move to new item number 17, which is discussion and consideration of the Vehicle Barn Site Improvement Project, contract award and budget amendment. Do you want to join us at the podium, Zach? Greg, if, we'll call you if we need you, if we have a question. So we saw a presentation earlier tonight on this project. So we have a few things, I mean, I think what I'd like to share before we start asking more questions is the township in our fund balance, in our policy, we have a policy that our general fund balance needs to be between 120% of general fund to 80, operating to 80. I contacted our accountant, and this was his response. As of 12/31/25, the township has 149.6% fund balance. To get you to 120%, you need to spend down fund balance by 1.1 million. To get you down to 80%, it's 2.7 million. These are both in addition to already planned 2.2 use of fund balance that's in the 2026 budget. So I'm sharing with you that I shared with you previously, that the $400,000 for a vehicle barn was in the budget for many years. It was returned back to the fund, essentially, and we would still, I just want you, that this would not put us in dire straits as far as making a commitment to this project. So with that, I just want to share that information before Zach walks you through the budget amendment.
Can I ask you a really quick question? It's been a long time. I thought we voted not to go below the 100%. Was that
No.
something we voted on? The fund balance? Okay. I must be
80
confusing
to
it with something else.
120.
That's the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, excuse me, I don't have a ton to add in addition to the memo. We tried to outline, kind of break down what the cost would be. Even if we just proceeded with the base bid, it would require a budget amendment. But as we talked through in the presentation and with cemeteries, buildings and grounds, it's better and would be a better project if we went with a comprehensive approach, especially considering the market volatility and the cost changes and fluctuations. They typically don't go down. So I think I said it will never be as cheap as it is for this. We don't think rebidding would make that much of a difference. Again, we've talked with this contractor, Bulkema, as the low bidder. And some of the feedback was that there could already be some potential cost savings. Once we mill the parking area, if the existing subbase is suitable to be reused, we could not bring in as much sand to backfill there for the new parking. There's potential cost savings with the water service, depending on what we can get permitted with the city, that could significantly reduce those costs. So even after awarding the contract, we will still try to work and reduce the cost of this. We are going to do the inspection in-house is the plan. So we will have more direct control over the costs throughout the process, and we can try to save every penny. As we've mentioned too, multiple times, a new barn was in the budget for a number of years. And I think even though this is a retrofit and restoration, so to say, of a site, the cost would be comparable for a new build, not even considering acquiring the property or the location to put the new construction up. So this accomplishes goals, long-term goals of the township, and provides somewhat of an indirect community benefit in that we have a safe operating space for the maintenance department to do their work and secure parking for the sheriff's department. So it checks a lot of boxes, even though it is a large number. But it is something that we've outlined for a number of years.
Thanks. Is there any questions for Zach or the maintenance director?
No, thank you for your presentation at the Cemeteries, Buildings, and Grounds Committee. That was very well done, and then this follow-up presentation. As I said at that meeting, my only concern was taking out a couple of those nice old pine trees, but, you know, it's going to make it a safer environment, it's going to be better, less conflict, and, you know, hopefully with the additional other landscaping, you know, it will make the whole bigger picture better. So I support this.
As the township grows, we have to protect our investment in equipment, and we're going to need this in the future. And as we've seen with our sewer projects, putting it off, kicking the can down the road, just results in either getting less or paying more. And this is an investment in a growing community, and while it's substantial, I think it's a needed investment. We can't continue to ask you to do what you do without providing you an appropriate place to do it. And as we continue to grow and expand, we're going to need this.
So I agree with everything that has been said. I'm just wondering if, is this taking into account, I know it's very, very new on the police committee. We are looking at whether it's going to be, you know, advantageous to to start our own police department possibly, if that's going to be the best use of funds to protect people. So if that were to happen, obviously this would be years down the road, but we would have our own police vehicles. So would this be large enough to even accommodate that down the road?
Oh, I think for quite a while, yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, a main objective that is this, is to get the sheriff's vehicles out of our vehicle barn so that we can put township assets in that and protect our assets.
So the sheriff's department's vehicles will not be going back in?
That is
will not be
correct.
going into
They
this?
would,
Okay.
they would, and we can have more discussion, but, I mean, that's why the overhang was, so they wouldn't be fully out in the elements, but they would have an overhang, like you see at K Township, or even
Yeah.
the city of Kalamazoo. And when these original discussions went on with the sheriff's department, his biggest concern wasn't whether or not the vehicles were parked inside. His concern was having a stack of vehicles that were visible to the public. So that's where the whole fencing thing started.
Okay. All right, thank you for clarifying that.
So I will say, if I was someone who suggested that we do the project in phases, but I have since been convinced that the time to spend this money is now, because it will only be more expensive and the need's not going to go away. So I'm in full support of this as well, especially knowing that we easily have the money and it will even help us get closer to our own
To our
fund
own
balance
policy. Treasurer Bushka?
No, I don't know why, but I'm sitting here thinking, you know, there should be a way to put a bathroom in there. That building, it's not closed. And if they're gonna be in there working on stuff, they should be able to use the restroom. That's where my head is, so I'm good with it.
We won't be
We can put a
prohibited from
porta
adding
potty
that,
out
yeah.
there.
I mean, it just makes sense, right? If you're gonna be out there, it's climate controlled, there's water, there's sewer.
I mean, I guess, I don't know, I mean, could we investigate that?
It is definitely something that we can look into. I mean, we're just providing basically the hookup area and then an eye wash station. So there's no reason that it couldn't be extended. I mean, that's very feasible. It's just not something we considered as part of this. Yeah, that was.
I'd like to see it. I don't know how
Yeah.
else other people feel, but I'd like to see it.
Or at least put the rough in for it.
Sure,
You know.
yeah. I mean, we can definitely explore that.
Be cheaper to do it while we're building.
No, that's funny, I don't
So-
disagree with you.
Like, why walk
Right,
a
that's
quarter
what I'm
mile to
saying.
go use the
Versus
restroom?
having it start.
I think this is a great addition to, like trustee Chapman said, a growing community. We have to make these kinds of capital investments. One of the things that frustrated me greatly when I first started in this position was to find out that all of our equipment was parked outside. And the maintenance director has been waiting for some relief for a long time. So I appreciate your patience. I know you always do your very best to make sure that, regardless, that you take great care of the township's assets, so I appreciate that. I fully support this as well. So before we pause for public comment, any other final comments from the board? Okay, thank you, Zach. All right, at this time, since there will be board action on this item, this would be discussion and consideration of the vehicle barn site improvement projects. If you have public comment regarding this item, now would be the time. Welcome.
Hello. Just a quick comment. I don't know what happens in the maintenance barn, but earlier Chief McComb mentioned a mechanic for the fire trucks. Is that something that could be utilized here instead of driving Comstock?
Thank you. Okay, any further board deliberation?
I move that we,
You guys are so spoiled.
There's no motion, Zach.
You're so,
oh, I was just gonna do my own, I see. I was like,
I got it.
I just gotta tell you, there was a day when nobody prepared a drafted motion for you, so.
it wasn't that long ago.
No, wasn't that, this is like, you guys have gotten spoiled. Anyway, go ahead, Clerk Farmer.
I move to award the contract for the vehicle barn site improvements project to Balkema Construction for the base bid and both alternates in the amount of $579,747 and approve the respective budget amendments.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Farmer, support by Treasurer Bushka. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 6 with 1 absent. And rough in a bathroom.
Please rough in the mouth. Just makes sense.
All right, now we are on, towards the end of our agenda, and now it's time for public comment. If there's anyone present wishing to make public comment.
We have one more item.
Yeah, you got
The
another.
Public
update
Works.
to the text program or?
Oh, shoot. You know what? I wrote all over my
You
paper.
stop changing your agendas.
Today was not my fault. I changed here, and it was not a good idea. Okay, an update. This is really just an update to the board. Since we had quite a couple of discussions about the texting program, the board did approve a budget amendment to do this, and so Zach is here to kind of define where that went and what was decided.
Yeah, so we previously had $5,000 in the approved 2026 budget for this, and we brought a budget amendment for an additional $5,000 for this program. I want to start with, this is money spending in the opposite direction. Good news here, it's not asking for any additional funds. All credit goes to Rich, our Media and Communications Director. He took some of the feedback about this item that we previously brought and then put together a request for proposals. And we took this back out to the market to get more feedback and open it up to other vendors rather than the 2 that gave us the bid that brought forward that budget amendment. So we went through that process and we had several vendors submit proposals for that. Rich and I went through and created a matrix to score each proposal based on completeness, their ability to meet all of the requirements and do what we wanted them to do. And most importantly, with this sensitive data is to protect the residents' information that they would be trusting us with. So we broke it down to, I think, our top 3 with the scores, and then we had them do demonstrations. And up until that point, we never considered the dollar amount. All 3 were within budget, the amended budget. And then we did the demonstrations, and surprisingly enough, we had one at the high end that was tied after the demonstration with the lowest proposal, and that's where we made that decision. The vendor with the lowest proposal checked all of the boxes, scored very well on our matrix, and we were really impressed with their demonstration. We thought that their user interface was the most important thing that they could offer. It was very ease of use for both us, the township, that will be using it to send the messages out, and high ease of use for residents for signing up and opting into the program. So we were very happy with them. It is easy texting. We included their proposal in the packet. I believe that dollar amount is $2,300 or so roughly. After meeting with them and going through some of their demonstrations and talking with the client rep, they were going to waive some of the onboarding costs. So that actually brought what our agreement is finally going to end up at down to $1,935. And then if we want to add a second seat so that there is a backup user on our end in case I'm not available to send out messages, that would just be another $10 a month. So we can pilot this program for a fraction of what we initially thought and run it through phase 2 for the initial year and see how that goes. And hopefully it is a success and we can renew this and bring it into next year. But that was the update we wanted to bring forward. Mostly it's good news in the other direction as far as money spending. And I wanted to give a lot of credit to Rich because he really put together a good request for proposals and then really kept up with these vendors to make sure that we were getting the feedback that we wanted and we found the right one that we needed.
Yeah, so there's no board action on this. I just wanted, because it's new and so at the end, when this is over, then I believe there's a plan to bring a report back to just see what the engagement was like. So I'm really excited to see if this is a tool that we can grow, if it's something people desire, so.
Well, and kudos to the work saving the taxpayers. So to Rich and to everybody involved, thank you. Thank you for doing that. That's a substantial savings.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Zach. Now we can move to public comment. So now would be the time, is there anyone in the public wishing to make your comments to the board? Now would be the time to come forward. The policy's on the back of the agenda, and you'd have 4 minutes. Okay, seeing no public comment, I'm going to close public comment, and we will move to board member comments and committee updates. And let's see, who's on my radar today? Trustee Cole.
Well, I was going to update about the police committee meeting, but I kind of got that out already organically. So we had a steering committee meeting and quite a few coming up. And I was the one, I guess I don't really have to have this from you guys because I heard that you guys discussed your feedback. I was the one that asked Peter to send out emails to you guys asking what your feedback is, the 4 of you that, are not on the steering committee. So feel free to ignore that because I heard you guys give it.
Oh.
You look confused. You didn't get an email?
No.
Oh, you didn't? No. I think he thinks you're on the steering committee because
A lot of people do.
you got on the first email, so he probably thinks, anyways.
I don't think they went out.
Lastly, I want to, clarify some statements that I've said since the last meeting when Jim educated me on, potential litigation with MPSC down the road, should we end up there, and comments made on the record on this dais, potentially, making it difficult for our WEO to be enforced, or that I would not be allowed to vote because of statements that I said regarding BES. And I want to just clarify that statement. Well, those statements is that, and I have said this on record as well, that I'm not anti-BES. I've always stated unless and until they can make these things safe. So concern that litigation down the road might be, well, I'm anti-BES or this board is anti-BES. I think none of us are anti-BES. We're all Democrats up here. We all want clean energy and alternate energy sources, right? So, again, I don't think any of us are anti-BES. We are putting something, potentially a bomb, in our township that we just hope doesn't go off one day. So again, it's more pro-protection of our residents and our natural resources versus being anti-BES. And again, maybe they can make it safe. That'd be great. But and I understand too that we cannot say no. We do need this working ordinance. But I guess if we had to have a facility, I would hope that in the drafting of the ordinance, we're looking at where that should go and if rural residential is the proper place for it. So hopefully that's something that's being taken into consideration. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cole. Yep, and we'll have an opportunity to talk through all of those things ourselves too. So, Mr. Sikora.
Thank you. Since our last board meeting, I attended the cemetery's Building and Grounds Committee meeting on April 15th and the board retreat on the 16th. The Oshtemo Friends of the Parks group met on the 21st, where we reviewed the work on the benches we are building as one of our contributions to the Fruit Belt Rail Trail. We discussed the upcoming music in the park concerts and signed up for the tasks connected to that. And we began discussion of the fall event to be held at the Drake Farmstead on Sunday, September 27th, in conjunction with the Oshtemo Historical Society's open house for the Drake House. I participated in the Road Commission Chats event, Road Projects, Planning, Design, and Purpose, held on the 23rd. I took advantage of Oshtemo Shred Day on the 18th, and I think that's a great service provided to township residents. And I hope everyone keeps that in mind, especially with spring cleaning and anything else you happen to be doing. Last Friday, Maintenance Director Greg Fountain and I met with the landscape designers to review the updated plan for the flagpole project and to clarify some items. I wanted to thank Clerk Farmer for stopping in and explaining our township policy on hiring contractors. We anticipate receiving updated information and the expected costs this week or next so we can move forward on this. And as we mentioned earlier, the initial fund request got us started on the project, so there's likely to be a second similar request when we get more information about the cost. So that's just a heads up. I also volunteered at Township Park on the 24th. We were removing invasive plants, and then again on the 25th at the Drake Farmstead Park, where we focused on removing garlic mustard. These are great experiences for everyone, meeting and chatting with other volunteers and residents who stop and see what we're doing and want to chat about it, talk about their parks. And we also had a group of students from WMU this time, and it's just nice to be able to work on a project like that and see how much we're accomplishing to improve our parks. This morning I went downtown to the Catalyst Center for a local officials academy titled Economic Development 201, organized by Southwest Michigan First. It was well done and useful, and I appreciated being able to chat with other elected officials and appointed officials from our local communities. Battery electric storage systems and data centers were also mentioned, and we're all interested in that, and businesses. This Thursday, I plan to attend the Road Commission public meeting about the 9th Street project that's going to be held here. Next week, Tuesday, May 5th, there'll be an election worker up in Cooper Township at their Township Hall precinct. Finally, even though I am a user and proponent of electric vehicles, I think we should move ahead with the purchase of one or more of the gas engine vehicles that we have delayed purchasing. While I still prefer that we have a study done on EVs for township government use to provide us with facts, evaluations, and a plan, I don't think it's prudent to keep putting off any action on all these vehicles that we have budgeted for and talked about replacing or adding. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that, Trustee Sikora. There's been a lot of research done actually on the vehicle issue, and it is causing a hardship for the staff. I actually plan to bring that formally, a request formally to our next board meeting, so we'll make sure to get that done. Okay. Trustee Chapman.
Thursday, the Planning Commission met, and we moved forward with a City of Kalamazoo Essential Service expansion on 9th Street, and we tabled a motion for a unified care facility after considerable conversation. I believe the individual will be revising his plans and bringing it back to us, at which time hopefully we can move forward with that. Nothing else to add at this time.
Thank you. Treasurer Bushka.
Yes, thank you. I agree with Trustee Sikora about the vehicles. We just need to start moving on it.
Yeah.
However, I have gone through just a small, quick update. I can put stuff in writing if people would rather have that at a later date or through an email. But I've gone through the testing phase of the, I forget what Trustee Ford called it, but the test databases. I can't break it. I have tried and tried and tried. I can't break it. But what it's come down to is a different way to upload a new tax database than what we've done in the past. And then once that is done, and the assessor has rolled into another year, so coming up, she's in 2027 and I'm working on 2026. So once that is done and it is committed, anything that changes after that still has to be manually done if it affects the the current year that I am working in. So we're gonna also have to have a working document to keep track of that stuff, which should be minimal. We're thinking like 3 to 5 a year, things like, if there's a veterans exemption home that sells, the taxes go back on, but the fire and police would have to be manually put back on. So small things like that. And because of that, I'm still gonna manually check every parcel every year. At least for a few years. So I'll put that in an email and make it a little bit more official, but that's a verbal update.
That's good. Sandbox.
Sandbox, there you go.
Took me a second. Clerk Farmer?
Thank you. We have an election next week. It's a small one for precincts 2 through 9. So if you have your absentee ballot at home, I encourage you to return it back to the drop box, either here in the Township Hall or the drop box at the community center. Both of those are checked every day. We're already working on our calendar for the August election. So that's kind of where my office's mindset is right now. And I've also been working with the county on their committee for the development of curriculum for training early voting election workers. And that is wrapping up. We've got our final document out that everybody's reviewing right now. But what came from that, what was really exciting for me, is that there is a desire for all of us to establish a basic framework for election training that would be consistent across the entire county, that every clerk would be using the same items for training, which is not currently happening. So that's something that's actually been born out of this other group that's working on different curriculum. But that's a good thing. And just a reminder to folks that most workers will be working from home on election day because we try to keep the office clear to be able to focus on the election itself. So just a reminder, if you have other business, maybe do it on Monday or Wednesday and not on Tuesday at the Township Hall. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Clerk Farmer. I have quite a few things here to update and share. I'm going to start with what I think is the most exciting thing to me, though. This other stuff is interesting and needs to happen to make the wheels move forward, but Oshtemo Township residents who qualify for, this is for young, lower-income families, our residents will now be able to participate in the RX Kids program. I don't think I've ever gotten a better phone call in my life when I found out that we had been selected. This is cash gifts that go into the homes of low-income or vulnerable families to help sustain them during the first year of life. It's a partnership between various pots of money from state funding as well as local funding. I know for sure the Kalamazoo Community Foundation is involved. It's a cool thing for our residents. And the beauty of it is that, let's say, it is a gift to help sustain them during pregnancy and young infancy, is that, let's say you live in a rent-controlled apartment complex, that doesn't get to count as income. That's why it's a gift. So when this program rolled out, you may have seen originally when the recipients were reporting it, what was happening was their landlords were just turning around and raising their rent. And so, but that's no longer the case. They fixed that. But there's going to be a kickoff hosted by the foundation, and we're all going to be invited June 1st, and I'm really looking forward to inviting or encouraging our residents to take advantage of what is, if you go and look on their website, they're expanding it significantly because of the very positive impact it's having on mothers and infants. So I just got to tell you, this is such great news for our community. We're very lucky to be included. Important but less fun. I attended with 1,000 of our fellow elected official colleagues and staff in Traverse City. I attended the Michigan Township Association Annual Conference. Next time, I want someone to go with me because I was all alone and it wasn't as fun. I was alone with 999 strangers. But I did go to 3 sessions on renewable energy, very well attended. I will say what's happening in our community is definitely not siloed, and the steps and the actions that we're taking are way ahead of our peers across the state. So I appreciate that things aren't happening fast enough, or some people think they're happening too fast, or whatever that is. We are in good shape with regard to how we are approaching this renewable energy situation. I also attended a conference on FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, which I hope to share some of that information with you all. I also attended an Open Meetings Act conference that was very good, so looking forward to sharing some of that in more detail. And I also attended an artificial intelligence forum that was also interesting. Again, we have a policy that's in draft form that will be coming to the board at some point so that everybody that's using AI at the township is operating under the same set of expectations. We're way ahead of our colleagues across the state in that. I attended the Kalamazoo County Event Center District Authority, which is the authority that's managing the process of the youth sports complex. The last meeting in my world was really around the marketing and a lot about the exterior building design. I know Public Works and Planning is on the design build meetings and continue to advocate for responsible development, particularly of the Maple Hill extension. We have been asked for a letter of support. The authority made a legislative directive spending request, and Oshtemo's been to help fund that extension, and we've been asked for a letter of support. I'm investigating that right now, as it came as a surprise to me. I went to the 911 dispatch authority. I'm on the finance committee, and good meeting. They had their audit today. 911's in good shape financially, so that's good news. I sent out a short survey regarding community engagement, community conversations. So overwhelmingly, the first Thursday of the month is the day of the week most selected. There were 2 different times that came 50-50, so I'm going to send you one more question. You only get to vote for one, and then we will nail that down. And I did speak with our media and communications director to start putting together some marketing around that so that, we're communicating them regularly. So more soon on that. My next supervisor coffee is actually on Election Day, May 5th.
Rich said that today. I forgot.
So, due to the election, this will be full of people. Every room is full of people. So I'm going to be choosing a different location. The weather's nice. I'm going to go to the gazebo in the park. The weather's not nice. I'm going to ask the chief if I can use a fire station. So, anyway, we mentioned the police committee. We had former Oshtemo officer Troy Folk come and speak to our committee. It was extremely productive. We've already scheduled the next meeting, and we will have to spend a work session discussing that committee. I'm very happy to report that the managing director of the Road Commission reached out to me to share some internal work they've been doing since our joint meeting that is very productive. And so we've scheduled another internal staff meeting where we're going to go in and they want to work with us on a couple of policy changes. So more to come on that, but that's good news. Genesee Prairie had some trees go down in it yesterday from the storm, and the maintenance director is going to be working on getting that cleaned up in case anybody calls you or me or you. I will also be bringing back the discussion on our burn ordinance. You heard the presentation, but if we're going to make some changes, I need some more direction about what kind of, what you all, what the board tolerance is and the community tolerance, quite frankly. Don't forget to pick up your yard waste and trash vouchers. The negotiations for the Wastewater Commission are going into deep dive, which is I'm still really, fingers crossed, if we can get that one across the board. But full-day negotiations, negotiating in kind of a way they haven't in the past. And I'm going to a learning tomorrow on data centers, an online learning.
I'm going to that too.
We have a moratorium in place. I think our plan is in motion with regard to battery energy storage. Don't want to let the moratorium, we need to pay some attention to the moratorium on data centers as well. And with that, that is my sharing and update. I appreciate you all for listening. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time. This meeting is adjourned.